All right, y'all, what is going on? This is your man L Jamal coming through with another edition of Never Out of Bounds. Of course, this is the place where you can say what you want as long as you got them facts. Of course, this is the we are in the aftermath of the heavyweight championship clash, the trilogy between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I'm gonna be giving you guys a full breakdown of the fight, what I saw in my opinion. I'll also be breaking down, of course, the reactions that I'm hearing and my observations and my takeaways from these reactions that I'm hearing, and yeah, and just overall, the ins and outs, both these fighters, and really, kind of maybe talk some legacy and also the future of the heavyweight division. But let's get into it. If you haven't done so yet, please like, please subscribe. It does a lot to support. And thank you, much love, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so Tyson Fury gets it done, of course. Knockout in the 11th round, you know, dramatic fashion, of course. Um, Especially because, what was going on into this fight. And I guess let's break that down before I guess we break down, what actually happened, and everything. Of course, Wilder comes into this one, you know, under the belief that he was, you know, almost disenfranchised. He was put in a position where he was forced to fight a rigged fight almost. Particularly with the more recent accusations against Tyson Fury, and of course the Nevada Athletic Commission regarding his gloves, and his glove issue would even return fight night. Now I don't know if this is just trolling amongst Wilder and his people, in order to even start up the detraction now and to gear up for those excuses later, or they're just ignorant to certain facts about boxing. Of course, when we look at the gloves, they have these YouTube videos out now, conspiracy wise, and they want to get into what these gloves look like, and they were already loose and soft and broken in. I highly doubt that coming from the manufacturer. Again, Wilder uses a different style of glove that protects his hand, so his glove is going to be a little bit more stiffer to begin with. And as far as, the gloves are concerned, really, at the end of the day, these fighters choose these gloves that they would like to use based on whatever preference they have. At the end of the day, the athletic commission and the boxers' camps, they analyze those gloves to make sure they meet whatever specifications that you're supposed to meet and meet, those immediate needs of the boxer come fight night, of course. So all this glove tampering, it's a far-fetched excuse. Again, it's very that those type of things are very petty because, again, the WBC and particularly Nevada as well has been in hot water due to that type of behavior before, because they allowed Margarito in the earlier 2000s to get away with those things in a couple of fights up until Shane Mosley and his camp caught him, and that's why you have these changes now. So again, I understand a conspiracy behind it. Whatever. Tyson Fury is not your average power puncher. He's not somebody who's always gone for knockouts. And again, it goes back to what kind of people feel about Wilder, and I'll get to him in just a second. And but let's just talk about just some of the underlying details going into this fight. That's what I wanted to get into first. Of course, you have like I said, the glove tampering could be issue, whatever. Wilder had those issues. There's a video I believe with him linking all that, just you know out there in his complaints about that. There's a video I believe of that as well. You know, I don't buy into all that. I definitely understand, from the A side fighter, his want to control the fight and, to have all these, machinations going. But for somebody like Wilder, you're not in that position anymore. You got to let it go. And as far as the rest of his excuses, because he had a lot of them going into the fight, and they just kind of, progressed. And again, about the egg weight. See, first it was either, the padding was, removed, or there was something added to the gloves, an egg weight. It can't be both. Which one is it, guys? You guys got to get your excuses together first and foremost. Wilder didn't even have him right. He wanted to blame Breland for stopping the match too soon. Okay, fine. You got to the 11th round and still got knocked out in this one. Are you happy now? Okay. At some point in time, you're going to have to be, hold responsibility for yourself. And when you have L's, you have to own those L's in order to become a better person, not even just a better fighter in his sake. In his sake, he might have to become a better man in order to become a better boxer. It happens to certain people. Look at Tyson Fury. He was coked out, all out of his mind when he beat Klitschko. He came back, dialed back, focused his energy, and he's been able to hold on to his title despite coming in here really overweight in this fight. And that was another, I think, kind of lead into this fight that everybody wanted to make a big deal on. I was somewhat concerned, but at the end of the day, I just think that as a big frame guy that Tyson is, he's already 6'9" or maybe 7 feet, something like that. I think somebody of his relative frame could carry up to 300 pounds just on his own off day. Who knows what he's like in between fights or how big he gets. He probably was up to maybe 300 pounds carrying that around when he was in his drug binges and just not taking boxing seriously. So again, he has that experience of just carrying that weight around. That big hefty frame helps that out. I thought it might have been a factor going into the later rounds, but it obviously wasn't at some point. And Fury, he comes in there, looking big, looking rotund, but again, more along the lines of what he's always looked like, in my opinion, is he's never had the washboard abs. And it's funny how people want to ridicule his body when they have bodies on par with him, if not worse. We got people with no necks, just saying, how dare he be champion? And, they fat as I don't know what. How dare he? Deontay has a body of a god. He should be deserving, and making arguments of that nature and such. And that's not how this is. That's not how this, sport is won. Now there is some other, ways that we can look at it, and I'll get into that in just a little bit later. But as far as appearances, I was even fooled. I thought that Wilder would have an advantage being a little bit lighter, but then I didn't even know about Wilder's weight gain until even closer to the fight, and that looked to be more of a factor than Wilder's weight gain. Fury's weight gain. And again, guys, I'm just coming, to you guys off the cup. No real script today. I just wanted to get all these thoughts off my chest because I've been hearing so much about this fight already. It hasn't been necessarily 24 hours yet, but I'm just wanting to get some of these observations that I'm seeing off my chest and, and go from there. So, anyways, we get into the fight, and, round one, Wilder looks really good. He's jabbing. He's utilizing it really well. He's going to the body. This is an approach we have not seen before. And people were surprised about this, and I'm pretty sure they were taken aback by this. And it looked really good to see that coming from Wilder. But then I slowly started to see the tide turn near the end of the round. I definitely can say that he won the round, but I also feel like near the end of the round, Tyson Fury kind of changed the tide and kind of, took things back in his favor. Again, not necessarily winning the round, but, doing enough to stop, at least curtail some of Deontay's momentum going into round two. And they will go back and forth in round two, sharing some big shots to each other. And don't get me wrong, these guys can really, rumble. They can take a shot. Deontay Wilder has a strong right hand, and you can't coach that. You can't necessarily train that. But what I will say is you can train defense. You can build up somebody's IQ. You can build up somebody's footwork. And again, we're going to get into some deeper layers that I thought were interesting. Other observations that people had about this fight that I want to get into and address those. But you know, first and foremost, back to Wilder, you gotta teach fundamentals as well. You can't just be a strong hitter. You can't just be a power shot, no hitter quitter throughout your entire career. And I think that's, what people truly thought that Wilder was going to be. And so it's hard for them to process a loss, particularly when he's getting knocked out. And then on top of that, he's getting knocked out by somebody who doesn't look like that much of an athlete. And on top of that, he's not that much of a knockout artist, what people would say. So again, people, particularly in Wilder's camp, the real, deep fans, they have a real issue with this. And I get it. They don't want to really own this, and I would understand. There's a lot of, I feel also, even racial type of feelings about this, and I totally get it. Wilder, he has that stance, to this day, in promoting black excellence, and that's fine and dandy. But you gotta bring something more to the table in boxing than being one dimensional to be successful. I don't care how hard you're hitting somebody. If you can't properly jab, for Wilder, being that he has a great right hand, a simple 1-2 combination would be one of the most devastating tools he could have in his arsenal. And the fact that he can't put that type of combination together is really sad. Forget all the other excuses. Forget the gloves and forget, again, because we're gonna get into some crazy excuses that I've heard as recently as today. But again, the fight continues. We get to round 3. We have the first major knockdown of the fight. Fury gets the best of Wilder this time. Drops Wilder. Wilder gets back up. Wilder does his thing, and he does even stun Fury at the end of the round. Like I said, Wilder has a God-given right hand. If he was able to, work harder on his other skill sets to bring it to the table, he'd be fine. And I was disappointed because the hype packages and the way that he came in it, the way that he was moving in his videos, you think he was looking to box. And the minute he got hit, just like Mike Tyson said, the great Mike Tyson. And he's a historian of the game, so this is why I take a lot of what he says very seriously about boxing. He is a boxing historian. Nobody highlights this fact about him, but he's a great boxing mind in general. Again, he goes, everybody has a plan until they get hit. Deontay Wilder got hit, and he resorted right back to trying to load up on his right hand. And it was effective because, again, we get to round 4. He's able to drop Fury twice. Albeit, I'll give you guys this. How about we make a trade here? Let's see what we can work out. Let's talk turkey. I'll trade you a slow Fury knockdown for what I consider to be a push on at least one of Deontay Wilder's knockdowns. Can we do that? If y'all want to talk about this slow count that I didn't really hear. Now, I will give you this. The ref gave Fury a little bit extra time after he got up. There was that confusion with the neutral corner business. So I'll give you that. But Wilder got the same amount of time as well. In between a round, I believe a doctor came in and wanted to speak with him. So we got that going. And we'll get, again, my opinion about those knockdowns. One of them, yeah. But what I kind of saw is he hit Wilder. Wilder would hit Fury. He was stunned, and his head, he's already kind of bending low, and I seen Wilder push him down. My question is, if you don't have a push, does Fury really go down? Now again, if Wilder catches him again, we definitely have a knockdown. But when I see a knockdown, I need to see that fighter get hit and go down, not get pushed down, not get wrapped up and kind of tossed to the side. And the second knockdown looked even more kind of the same. Wilder kind of hit him and it kind of just pushed him to the side, like it was almost like a staged event. And so it was like, come on now, like, yeah. And I think, Fury just being that big, it's hard for a big motherfucker to get up. It's hard for him to be, a big motherfucker, to have that extra push, being pushed down on you. So it's hard. And again, the sequences look so, muffled that it did look like. I mean, again, I think Wilder would land clear, but I don't think without the push offs, in my opinion, I don't think Fury touches the ground. But that's my opinion. We can argue about that because I know people want to argue, put in this slow count BS that doesn't exist. So I'll take that with y'all. Maybe we can make a trade on that one. So while Fury gets past his 2 knockdowns in round 4, and he continues just to kind of go about his process. He's making Wilder miss. Wilder looks to be tired as hell. He looks severely unconditioned. Is that because of the extra body weight? I would say so. Looks like he put on extra muscle mass. Not a good idea in boxing. Lennox Lewis even said so. Again, it just didn't look that great on his part in terms of his stamina. That was his biggest key. And also the fact that he really did not let go of his tendency to want to reach for the right hand. Again, he had power. He was able to stun Fury for many different times in the fight. But after a while, what I started to see was Fury damn near became immune to that right hand, and it was starting to not make a difference. So if we were to hypothetically ask for a fourth fight, by that point, that right hand ain't going to really be doing shit to him. So, so we get to round, 9, 10, same process. Fury is, working his, thing from the outside to get Wilder kind of coming in, getting a few right hands on him, stunning him to a degree, but like I said, Fury becoming immune to that. And then finally we get to round 11, and Fury just happens to catch him, and to see him go down like that, especially for the final knockdown, Wilder, it was just like wow, and because it was a culmination, I feel, of. And I know people they're gonna be mad about what I'm about to say here. It's a culmination of not addressing what needed to be addressed. And this is to all my, third-minded, third-eye woke black folk who thinks that, because again, this is what I heard. I come across these different, reactions, and I'm hearing people talking about it from some type of occult aspect and saying, Tyson Fury had his ancestors, and, Wilder was praying to the wrong ancestors. Let me tell you this, okay? This is boxing, okay? It's like in football. I can sit here and pray to Vishnu and sacrifice a damn whatever I gotta sacrifice. I could pray to whatever God and make whatever sacrifices. If I can't block, I'm not good at what I do. In any sport, you can pray to any God you want to. If you can't shoot the ball, if you ain't got the actual, if you ain't got the birth talent to do it, or the drive to get better and to add those specific skills to fit whatever you got going on, it don't matter who you praying to. It don't matter whatever little shamans you got and shrines you got. None of that's gonna matter, okay? Deontay Wilder can't block. You can't pray to get that, okay? There's no amount of voodoo. There's no amount of Santeria that's gonna save you. There's no ancestral ritual you could do to give you defense, to give you boxing IQ. Same thing for Fury. You think Jesus is really giving him the power to get? Jesus ain't got shit to do with all that, even if I believed in that type of form of Jesus. That's not how that shit works. You can't get motherfuckers to do shit for you. Now, you can get them to help you, to inspire you, to get you to get up, and to get you to train harder. Maybe somebody in your bloodline was a boxer. You can take something that you learned from that individual. But you can't have them fight for you. And all this spiritual warfare, that's all tacky. Ain't with none of that. Boy got his ass whooped. Now, was there some, TV, and of course, because TV is programming now, that they play they role in all type of shit. Yeah, of course. That's why they made Wilder come out with the Roman and all that. We know that they play them little games, but that's how the fan come into it anyway. Black dude fighting a white dude. Of course, they're gonna get into, a lot of people on the surface level gonna get into it racially, because that's all they look at is from a surface level. That's why when you hear Mike Tyson go, support Fury, you hear another black person go, oh, he weak minded. He ain't. No, he just knows boxing. Fury ain't got no defense. He can't move. He can't do nothing but hit you with a solid right hand. And if you stand there waiting for it, he gonna catch you. That's the way that it is. No, that's not. There's nothing to that. Okay? Look at AJ. He got flaws in his game that he gotta figure out. Otherwise, he ain't gonna get to the next level. Fury came in there fat, but he handled his business. What can you say about that? Ain't no excuses to that. You want to blame the gloves? Okay. Well, I take it all the way back to the beginning. They should have been teaching Wilder fundamentals, the value of a jab, the value of angles, okay? The value of stamina. Stamina is far more important than you knocking this guy out. And again, that's the problem with power hitters. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I recently came to this, and we can get to the legacy standpoint of all this recently on my podcast. And I wanted to put this on YouTube because I wanted these thoughts here to have a further reach here on YouTube. And I recently said on my podcast, and I really came down to it. In the first two fights, I was rooting for Fury. Not necessarily rooting for Fury, but I had picked him to win based on his skill set, okay, in both fights. With that being said, looking at what I've seen for Wilder, being that he hasn't really grown in this time period, in this trilogy, looking at what AJ's done in the past few years, and looking at his recent loss, looking at him not growing, and I look at, Fury and what it's all been said and done. I think about the amount of time he wasted, his potential that he wasted, although he got some of it back. But the amount of time that he wasted to fuck off after he beat Klitschko, and we talk about what stage Klitschko was at. And then we'll even go back further and we'll talk about what Klitschko, his quality of opponents. So if you look on it, these guys, I think Fury is the best right now. Again, they're going to probably set him up with AJ to figure out really what the deal is. For Wilder, he doesn't need to fight Fury again. He needs to let it go, become a better fighter, and open up about what his deficiencies may be. Maybe set up a fight with AJ, knock him out, because that could be possible. Maybe you fight Ruiz, knock him out. You get some solid other wins under your belt. You beat some other notable cats, at least notable guys. Because I don't think these guys are ever going to be considered on the level of the Alis and the Tysons, and even the Holyfields and the Lennox Lewises. We look back in time a little bit further. We got Floyd Patterson, Marciano. I don't think they're of those guys' ilk. All three of these guys. I looked at what they've been doing. All three of these guys that they've tried to, the media tried to push one or three of these guys. You have, the British, pushing AJ on us. That was their guy. Of course, they're behind Fury, but Fury got, he has a split base. He has America behind him too, and of course some celebrities. And in Wilder, you had him, he was supposed to be Black America. And of course, people are gonna say this is a loss. It's not a loss for us because it's not that deep. This is sports, and again, when you start to try to pigeonhole Wilder as that guy, why make Wilder just the guy when we got Spence? Why we forgetting about Errol Spence? You know what I'm saying? Why we forgetting about great champions like Bud Crawford? Why we acting like Floyd Mayweather didn't exist? Why just because people want to be not necessarily riding with Wilder, that don't mean that we not down with black folk or black fighters or black down with a black cause. Now, just because Wilder is vocal and all that, I think that gives him the image of him being the man. He was supposed to be the second coming of Ali, and because he could knock people out, that's what made him man. And it's about being the black alpha male and showing the world that that's the only thing that's here, and we are strong and we're black and all this. Listen, power does also come in humility. Power also comes in having a varied skill set. Okay? You can say what we want. You know, Mayweather had just as much of a following and just captured just as much as people with his skill set, if not more than Wilder ever could, by just knocking people out. Let's be real here. So it's not necessarily about, now if Wilder truly fought, you know, again, more credible competition and really showed up and knocked out Fury a couple times, then I'll give you something. But he gets knocked out by the same guy twice. He's not on that level. AJ, he gets knocked out twice by guys. Well, let's say the first time against Ruiz, that's a guy that probably shouldn't have been there. But I think he's stepped his game up, though. I think people are really harsh on Ruiz. Again, it's body shaming. Y'all a little bit hard on Tyson. Again, it's because of the body shaming. I see y'all, but y'all ain't got no body. So let that shit go. You know, it's hard to say about these guys in terms of legacy and future. I think in terms of the future right now, I think the big time fight you probably will see is going to be Usyk and maybe Fury down the line. Fury's just going to be hella big though. He might be able to just wear him down, Usyk, and it just wouldn't be super pretty. You know, Usyk might have a shot against Wilder. That'll be a solid fight. They're both around the same size. Again, Usyk is coming from, you know, cruiserweight, so he's naturally going to be a smaller guy. That might not be the best fight you might want to see. But as far as Wilder, you know, you got to pick up where you left off and kind of improve on those things. I mean, but you only have so much time left. That's why I'm like, again, y'all keep saying, you know, he needs to fight Fury again and he needs to, you know, focus on getting a belt that you can, you know, really get. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what happens now again because you have Usyk with all the belts that he took from AJ, because AJ pretty much had every other belt now. So you kind of got to go through Usyk unless he vacates one of them. So, you know, Wilder put himself in a position. You got to improve. Let this be a lesson to everybody. Don't rely on one or two skills, y'all. Be working to better yourself. And don't rely upon these outside excuses. Don't rely upon these outside, you know, stories and because it takes away from really what the deal is. Again, I'm sorry to my woke black folk, but no amount of witchcraft could have saved Wilder. Unless Wilder had a decent offensive arsenal and could move his head and could block people, he was only gonna have so much that's his ceiling right there. He'll give you a great fight, but is he a real champ? Is he gonna beat the best of the best? I don't think so. Power only gets you so far, and I've said this for years. You need more than this to be a great all-time fighter. Ali had it, and he had the charm, but Ali had the skill set. George Foreman, you know, he lost to Ali, came back, took a few years off, became a better person, changed his approach to boxing, got his fundamentals better, won a championship again. But people add things. You add wrinkles. Floyd Mayweather has changed his fighting style in the middle of his career in order to protect his viability. Yes, you want to be the knockout guy, but you want to be able to bring more to the table because you can't knock out everyone. Okay? That's what it comes down to. And this is not taken away from Wilder because he stood up. He did not quit. And we're making so much, I know boxing fans are making so much a big deal on fighters quitting and doing all this. So he didn't quit. He stood there But he has to bring more to the table than that right hand, y'all. You can't make that good. You can't. Again, the reason I call him a poor man's Ernie Shavers is because if he was around in the '70s, he'd have about the same record. With the amount of talent you had back then, he'd have about the same type of record. He survives now in this era because he's fought. I mean, come on, he's fought. Has he fought outside of Fury? Malik Scott, his trainer. Have you seen Malik Scott's other fights? Did you see what he did against Victor? Was it Luis Ortiz? Come on, come on. Who had he beaten? Gerald Washington. He was ranked number 15 in the WBC by the time they fought. And if you want to talk about Fury and how bad his body looked, what about Stavern when they fought? But that it's okay when it's Stavern. That was a great win, right? But he gets knocked out by a fat ass Fury. Oh, he stop the whining, stop the madness. Let that man try to get himself better with the amount of years he got left physically. Hopefully he can do something. Good fight from Tyson Fury. Again, good effort from Wilder. But there's obviously some things that he still got to do. And with that being said, there's a lot that the rest of at least AJ has to do as well. So clearly right now, Tyson is the best heavyweight right now. All right, y'all. If you liked what you heard, if you liked the content, please make sure to subscribe. This is your man El Jamal. I'll be leaving some more links available for you guys. And peace out, one love. If anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. And I'll holler at you guys later.